Chapter 5, efficiency and equity. And let's look at let's say that someone in this room now remember, this is hypothetical. But to someone in this room, I'm going to give this $100 bill to. For you zooming in on me, I'm going to mail it to you. Okay, so $100 bill on the line. And let's talk about how we might allocate scarce resources. And I chose to pull this 100 out. It's the only one in my pocket, and in my household, this $100 bill could be a scarce resource. So let's talk about scarce resources. All right. How might I allocate scarce resources?
Market price, command, majority rule. Contest, first come, first serve, lottery, personal characteristics, and force.
Market price. Command. Majority rule.
Contest. First come, first serve. Lottery.
There one more.
Personal characteristics.
All right, and force. Okay, two kinds of people. Let's start with the first one. Two kinds of people decide to pay the market price. So two kinds of people decide to pay the market price. Those who can afford to pay, and then those who can afford to pay, well, let's say the first is those who can afford to pay, they buy. And then those who can afford to pay but decide not to buy. So in order to allocate a scarce resource using a market price, it's going to attract two forms of buyers. Those who can afford to pay and do buy, and those who can afford to pay but cannot buy. It can also attract those who are what? Those who simply cannot afford to pay. So you're going to attract two kinds of buyers, but a third participant that's going to come in are someone who cannot afford to buy. Now, I'll give you an example. School fees and medical care. The more pristine the university, or the more pristine the school tuition or the schools, what happens to the cost? It starts to go up. Trust me, in order to get Alan Greenspan into this classroom right now to talk about this, is going to be more of a scarce resource. Your tuition bill would rise a lot more if we had Alan Greenspan in here than having Charlie Neal. Okay. Medical care. Look no further than the Affordable Care Act and the idea behind it and implementing We won't have debate about the efficiency of it, but just the fact of helping ensure those who could not afford it, specifically think of the government, the income subsidy. Okay, that was to battle the group who was trying to be attracted into medical care but could no longer afford it. All right, now, a command system. You know, before I say that, before we go to command system, you think of most of the items that you have in your house, and you think of most of the items you spend your cash on, and I'm going to say most are allocated based off of market price. Now, a command system. All right, here I want you to think if you were in the military. I want you to think of the hierarchy contained through ranks. If I'm a private, I know I report to a sergeant. Ultimately up the food chain to the generals, to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to the president. Okay, a command center allocates resources by the order or the command of someone in authority. Works well in organizations with clear lines of authority, but badly in an entire economy. Now, again, if you were in the military, there was a clean chain of command. There was no confusion on whom you reported to. But imagine trying to put the command system out in the entire economy. And I try to tie all this back in because we're going to talk about what system I use in order to allocate this $100 and which system is fair to an entire society. Majority rules. Allocates resources in the way the authority of the voters change. So here we have a voting system. So now we are going to vote on how we allocate this resource. Give you an example. Hearing a lot about taxes right now. So taxes are going to be a system of majority rules. Majority rules works well when the decision affects a lot of people and self-interest must be suppressed in order to use the resources efficiently. Let's hold a contest. All right, a contest, we allocate resources to a winner or a group of winners. The most obvious contests are sporting events. Think of professional sports drafts. Think of Academy Awards. Think of the ESPYs. Okay, those are all methods of allocating a resource. Well, the resource being a prize. The prize being $100. So we're going to hold a contest. I got a feeling I know which one you all are going to choose. First come, first served. Would this be fair? So first come, first served allocates resources to those who are first in line. Indiana, would that be fair to Wisconsin and Kansas City? Would it be fair for our society to allocate resources for those that could be first in line? First come, first served works well when scarce resources can serve just one person at a time and within a sequence. So I can only take this scarce resource and benefit you right now. After I'm done with you, I can move to you. I can move to you. Lotteries. Lotteries allocate resources to those with the winning number who draw the lucky cards or come up lucky with some other type of playing game. All right, everybody, write down a number on a piece of paper between 1 and 12. And just hold that number in your head. All right, think of your state lottery systems. Kansas, do you have a lottery system?
Yeah.
Yes. Wisconsin, do you have a lottery system? No. Yes. Indiana, do we have a lottery system? Yes. A lot more and more states are doing it. Now think of casinos too. We have casinos here. Churchill Downs, I'm going to put that as, again, still with the Derby horses in my mind. I think Churchill Downs. They wouldn't like it if me calling them a casino, but they're close to being there. Lotteries work well when there is no effective way to distinguish among potential winners. So I have no way of distinguishing. Right now, you all chose a number. I have no way of distinguishing what number you chose individually. Personal characteristics. Allocate resources to those with the, quote, right characteristics. All right, if you're married, think of how you chose your marriage partner. Boyfriends, fiancés, think of how you chose your partner. There's probably some personal characteristic that you liked about that person. But this method gets used in most unacceptable ways. And I think no more than I think of in employment right now. And I still have to think about wage discrimination between, and only 2 males in this room right now, right? Fend for yourself in Wisconsin. But there is right now discrimination in a lot of industries, or we'll say suspected discrimination. He's in technology. I'm gonna say to a lesser degree in technology. I represent Wall Street, probably to a larger degree in Wall Street. More in examples of wage discrimination based on that personal characteristic of me simply being a male. You simply being females. All right, so is that a fair way? Is that an efficient way for me to allocate and award this $100? And finally, force. Force does play a way in allocating resources. For example, war has played an enormous role historically. Let's just say countries have taken from other countries by force scarce resources. Scarce resources ranging anything from commodities to human capital. Force provides an effective way of allocating resources for the state to transfer wealth from the rich to the poor and establish the legal framework in which voluntary exchange can take place. All right, so there is a positive element about that. If we're applying theft or we're just simply applying force, we're going to vote no. But force can provide an effective way. Questions I ask real quick, and I know I only have 6 minutes. Why do we need methods for allocating scarce resources? Why can't we just pick one? Why do we need 8 different methods?
Not always good for, not every resource can be treated.
Not every resource can be treated the same. Different allocation methods for different resources. All right, real quick, last question. Well, second to last question. Give me an example of a system here who worked badly. Think of an example of the allocation of a resource that you can think about that worked badly.
Cash for clunkers.
What was that?
Cash for clunkers.
Cash for clunkers. Why do you think it worked badly?
Well, I worked in the auto industry for the last 8-10 years, and I remember when that system came out, there was not enough money to fund the whole system. And I think as soon as the plan launched, 4 days into it, they had to shut it down and to expand more money into the program.
Good example. All right, cash for clunkers. Last question.
What number did you pick for the $100?
That's what I'm getting ready to say. Who chose the number 2? Who did?
Tina, Justina.
Tina, you chose 2. All right, I told you I would not sin because this is being recorded and I'm not using bribery or going to be suspected by bribery. But if we were using one of these systems, you would have been the recipient of a $100 bill. So I will send you something in lieu of $100. It's probably going to be a big jumbo $100 note about that bill. So anyway, that's the end of chapter 5.
Okay, don't worry. I'm using the course to get that $100 at the class.